Imagine all of human existence as a timeline stretching the length of your arm. The part we call history? Just a speck at the tip of your finger. The rest, prehistory, spans millions of years, from our earliest ancestors to the invention of writing. It's a story told not in words but in stone, bone, and earth. We become detectives, piecing together clues, a chipped flint, a cave painting, a fossil. These are messages from our ancestors, revealing how they lived and who they were. For over 98% of our time on Earth, our story was unwritten, passed down through art, tradition, and daily life. Prehistory is divided into ages: stone, bronze, iron, each marked by the tools and materials that shaped our world. Here we mastered fire, developed language, created art, and began to farm. These were giant leaps that changed our relationship with the planet and each other. During this epoch, we spread from Africa to every continent, adapting to new challenges. To explore prehistory is to explore the very foundation of what it means to be human. It's the journey from fragile beginnings to a species that would one day shape the world. Let's step into the Stone Age, humanity's longest chapter. Life was a daily struggle. People lived in small, nomadic groups, surviving as hunter-gatherers. They moved with the seasons, building shelters from branches, skins, or bones, and sometimes living in caves. Their tools, flint knives, bone scrapers, wooden spears, were simple but ingenious. Mastering fire was a turning point. It brought warmth, safety, and the ability to cook food, fueling our brain's growth. Survival depended on deep knowledge of the land, what to eat, how to hunt, when to move. Art flourished. Cave paintings of animals, perhaps for ritual, teaching, or magic. Life was short and dangerous, but community and cooperation were essential. They shared food, cared for each other, and passed down knowledge. This social bonding was our superpower, laying the groundwork for language and culture. In these small bands, the seeds of human society were sown. The Stone Age pioneers set the stage for everything to come. They were the original explorers of our planet. Their legacy is the foundation of who we are. Fast forward to the Age of Exploration, a time that became the Age of Colonialism. Colonialism is when one country takes control of another land and its people, imposing its rule, economy, and culture. This began in earnest in the 15th century, as European nations like Spain, Portugal, Britain, and France set sail in search of wealth and power. They found new continents, rich in resources and home to diverse peoples. The motivations? Gold, glory, and God. Wealth, national pride, and the drive to spread religion. Colonies became sources of raw materials and new markets for European goods. The more colonies a country had, the more powerful it seemed. But colonialism created deep inequality. Colonizers made the laws, controlled the economy, and ran the government. Local people were pushed aside, their rights and ways of life often destroyed. The relationship was never equal, it was about domination. Colonialism was justified by the belief that one group had the right to rule over another. This system shaped the modern world, leaving a legacy of both connection and conflict. Its impact is still felt today. Understanding colonialism is key to understanding our present. Let's see colonialism in action across the globe. In the Americas, Spain and Portugal conquered vast empires seeking gold and silver, while Britain and France fought for control in North America. In Africa, the scramble for Africa saw European powers carve up the continent, drawing borders with no regard for local cultures. The Berlin Conference of 1884 divided Africa on paper, splitting tribes and forcing rivals together. In India, the British East India Company gained power through trade and force, before Britain took direct control. India's resources fueled Britain's wealth, but stifled local industry. Colonialism took many forms: settler colonialism in places like Australia, where indigenous people were displaced, and exploitation colonialism in Africa and India, where a few Europeans ruled many. In every case, the core principle was the same: control for the benefit of the colonizer. Local economies were reshaped to serve distant powers. Societies were transformed, often violently. Colonialism was not a single process, but everywhere it meant domination. The effects were profound and lasting. These stories reveal the true nature of colonial rule. Its legacy continues to shape nations today. Colonialism's main goal was profit, extracted through the exploitation of land and people. In the Congo, King Leopold II's quest for rubber led to forced labor, brutality, and millions of deaths. Across colonies, forced labor systems and taxes created a cheap, controlled workforce. Wealth flowed to Europe, fueling its industrial revolution. Land was transformed, diverse farms replaced by plantations growing cash crops for export. This made colonies dependent on global markets and often led to food shortages. Infrastructure like railways was built to extract resources, not connect communities. Colonial economies were designed to serve the mother country, not local needs. This legacy of exploitation still affects many nations today. Colonial rule was built on a massive imbalance of power, enforced by weapons, laws, and racist ideologies. Colonizers claimed superiority, teaching it in schools and embedding it in law. In places like French Algeria, a small group of settlers controlled land and politics, while the majority had few rights. Divide and rule was common. Colonizers favored certain groups, deepening divisions. In Rwanda, Belgian policies set the stage for future conflict by elevating one group over another. Resistance was met with brutal force, as in Namibia, where German repression led to genocide. Colonial power was maintained by ideology, law, and violence. The effects of these power dynamics linger long after independence. Understanding this helps explain many modern conflicts. When cultures collide, they change each other. But under colonialism, this exchange was unequal and often violent. Colonizers imposed their language, religion, and customs, suppressing indigenous cultures. Local languages were banned from schools, traditional beliefs and arts were condemned. This created a sense of cultural inferiority and loss. Yet colonized people resisted and adapted, creating new hybrid cultures. In the Caribbean, African rhythms blended with European instruments, giving rise to music like reggae and salsa. Writers used colonial languages to tell their own stories, challenging colonial narratives. Food, too, was transformed. Crops and recipes crossed continents, creating new cuisines. Cultural exchange flowed both ways, but always within a system of domination. The loss and transformation of culture is one of colonialism's deepest legacies. Yet, new forms of identity and creativity emerged from this collision. The story of cultural exchange is complex, marked by both pain and resilience. The Age of Empires is mostly over, but colonialism's legacy remains. Borders drawn by colonizers still cause conflict and instability. Economies shaped for export remain dependent and vulnerable. Many former colonies still rely on their old rulers for trade and aid, a system called neocolonialism. Socially, colonial hierarchies and ideas of racial superiority persist. Languages of former colonizers dominate government and education, creating barriers. Divide and rule tactics left deep ethnic tensions. But colonialism also sparked new movements like Pan-Africanism and stories of liberation. Understanding this legacy helps explain today's global inequalities and conflicts. The past is not past, it shapes our world. Recognizing this is the first step toward justice and healing. The story of colonialism is still being written. Why care about prehistory or colonial empires? Because this history shapes our world now. Prehistory connects us to our shared roots, showing our creativity and adaptability. Colonialism explains today's global inequalities, conflicts, and debates about identity and justice. Ignoring this history blinds us to the forces shaping our lives. Understanding isn't about blame, it's about responsibility and empathy. For former colonizers, it means recognizing the roots of privilege. For the colonized, reclaiming history and identity. This shared past is the key to building a more just future. Our journey from prehistory to the present is a journey into ourselves. The world we inherit was shaped by choices. Knowing this helps us choose better for tomorrow. The past is our map. Let's use it to navigate the future.